Mastering your 1/4 inch seam allowance for quilt piecing is truly an art, and I'm going to show you a few things you can do on the Pfaff Ambition Essential sewing machine to really help you get accurate seam allowances with a straight stitch at a 1/4 inch foot. Now yes, you can move your needle over and then just use the edge of your presser foot. You could use a little tool to measure how many times you need to move your needle to the right side. But let's just say we have one of the two Pfaff feet. They make it in both a clear version and a metal version that has a guide. So these guides are nice to just, well, then you don't have to think so much. It will just easily keep your fabric running next to, but not sneaking out past where a 1/4 inch actually is. These feet are set up to be used with the IDT or dual feet, so do engage them. They're also just a straight stitch only foot, so if you do stitch a zigzag, you are going to break your needle, or on the plastic one, you'll break your foot sometimes if you do it too many times. So, but you can see a little better on a plastic foot, but the metal one is also an option. Now, even though it is a center needle position, sometimes what I like to do, this is another tip or trick, they always talk about, for example, a scant 1/4 inch. So a scant 1/4 inch is taking a little less than a 1/4 inch to allow for the fabric to actually fold over and be pressed, and then that way you don't lose a little bit of that distance every time you take a seam. So you can take your needle position, which is 3.5, that's center, and go one little touch to the right. Not much, okay? But what it'll do is move the needle to be on that side a little bit closer, and then that way when you do press this open, you've got room for that. By lining up your fabric along the guide, you've got that. You've got markings on the foot. There's red marks, so if I want to start right on the edge of my fabric, the fabric can be lined up with the edge or right even with the red mark of the foot. You also have a little toe that is close to, actually it is a, here we go, let's just do it this way. On the package you can see that it is marked for 1/8 of an inch seam allowance if you follow the inside of the toe, and then a 1/4 inch on the outside with the guide, and 3/8 if you actually follow with the little extra guy sticking out the other side. So depending on your actual seam allowance, this is truly the way to go. I also prefer a little bit more shorter stitch length. So you will see me usually sewing at about a 2.3. That's just my preference. 2.0 is a little small, well, for me to take out. So I usually like the little less than 2.5, but not all the way down to 2. Since that is an option on this machine, that's my favorite setting. And oh yes, how perfect is that? Also, I do like to use a little thinner thread. So there are threads out there that are a lot thinner. So again, when you press this open, it's going to lay flatter and not be taken up by the ridge of the thread every time you take a seam. So you'll just need to practice, cut accurate strips or squares, sew them together, measure out your total size. And if you find that you are getting the finished size that the pattern says you're supposed to have, now you know you have mastered your 1/4 inch seam allowance.